Welcome to the Celtic Llama. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to knit the Almonds Stitch Pattern. For this pattern, you're going to need to know how to knit, purl, and cast on. If you need help with that, you can check down in the description below for my videos on how to do those stitches and techniques. So to get started, you want to cast on multiples of 4 plus 3. So for row 1, you're going to start off by knitting 1 and purling 2. Then we will jump straight into the repeat. The repeat for this row is going to be knitting 1, purling 1, knitting 1 in the same stitch. So let's take a look. We're going to knit 1, leave that loop on your left needle. We're going to purl into the same stitch, still leaving that loop on there, and then knit into the same stitch. And then we'll finally drop that stitch off of our left needle. Then we will purl 3 in the next 3 stitches. So again, the repeat for this row is going to be knitting 1, purling 1, knitting 1, all within the same stitch, and then you will purl 3. You'll repeat this until your last 3 stitches, and your last 3 stitches are going to be purling 2 and knitting 1. So here we are, just finishing off our last few stitches for row 1. Row 2, you are going to start off by knitting 1, and then you are going to purl every single stitch until the very last stitch, and the last stitch is going to be a knit. So just finishing off row 2, let's start into row 3. Row 3, you're going to start off by knitting 1 and purling 2, and then you will go straight into your repeat, which is going to be knitting 3, purling 3, and you'll repeat this all the way into the last 3 stitches, and then the last 3 stitches will be purling 2 and knitting 1. Now we are going to turn our work and we're going to work on row 4. Row 4, you're going to knit 1 and then you're going to purl all the stitches until the very last stitch, and the last stitch will be a knit. Coming into row 5, we are going to start off by knitting 1 and then purling 2. Then going straight into the repeat, which is going to be knitting 3, then purling 3. You'll repeat this until your last 3 stitches, and your last 3 stitches will be purling 2 and knitting 1. Coming into row 6, we are going to start off by knitting 1, and then we are going to purl in every single stitch until the very last stitch, and that last stitch, you guessed it, it's a knit. Row 7, we are going to turn our work and we are going to start off by knitting 1 and then purling 2, and then we will go into our repeat. And our repeat is going to start off by knitting 3 together through the back loop. So instead of knitting through the front like you normally do, you want to kind of pull your work this way so the back of your work is facing you. And then you want to insert your working needle into 3 loops from the back, like so. And then you'll just knit as normal. So yarn over, and then pull through, and then drop those 3 loops off of your working needle, like so. Then we'll finish the repeat by purling 3. So again, the repeat for row 7 is going to be knitting 3 together through the back loop, then purling 3. You'll repeat this all the way until your last 3 stitches, and your last 3 stitches will be a purling 2 and knitting 1. Finishing off row 7 with the purling 2 and knitting 1, we will go into our next row, which our next rows are going to be pretty easy. So for row 8, we are going to start off by knitting 1 and purling every single stitch until the very last stitch, and the last stitch will be a knit. Just finishing off that row. Row 9 is even easier. We are just going to knit every single stitch until the end of the row. Here we are finishing off row 9, and row 10, you guessed it, it's going to be a knit 1, purl every single stitch until the very last stitch, and then your last stitch, of course, will be a knit. Just finishing off row 10, We're going to go into row 11, which again is super easy. You're just going to knit every single stitch until the very end of your work. And finishing off with our last row, row 12, you're going to knit one and then you're going to purl every single stitch until the very last stitch. And that last stitch is going to be a knit. Now for this pattern, you want to repeat rows 1 through 12 until you get your desired size. And there you have it. That's how you do the Almonds Stitch Pattern. It's a fun pattern to do. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a like, and I look forward to seeing you in the next knitting video. Have a happy knitting day.